What's up, guys? This is 101 MMA Clinic. I'm Alex. Patrick is with me, and this is the first time that we have to start shooting again. So hopefully, we're not gonna mess anything else tonight.
Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Take two.
Take two. First time. They say there's always first time for everything.
The intro was even better the second time, so it works out.
Yeah, I got the chance to practice a little bit, but still, I like your intros.
Next time I ran a little bit out of time, but we got some good story time and good talk ahead of us. So fuck it, we'll skip my intro.
Okay. I'm not happy about it, but I did my part. Okay.
What do
Yeah,
you think, brother? Should we get into a little bit of last week's fights or jump right into this card?
we can just say like it wasn't good for us. Like we couldn't even hit the fight card. And I mean, it was during the day. I was on the wedding, so I didn't do any live bets. I was like up in Star Rock after the wedding, so I didn't even watch the fights. I rewatch. I follow the results because I did some parlays. But like I said, nah, not that good. Like
They're good fights, but you can't win all the bets, right?
yeah, I agree. I agree. We had a couple good weekends. I guess it's time for the how to say red wave. Hopefully, it's gonna end up this weekend because even last night on Dana White Contender Series, I didn't do that good, but I didn't even have time to research. Not even. I just went like just some like how to say time frames that's gonna end up in less than 2.5 round and a half. So I play a little bit with that because I didn't watch even fighters. I was just like going on the luck, and of course I didn't have luck. So that's it.
Well, this next one we have this weekend's a fun one to get ready for because a lot of like high profile fighters, especially compared to last weekend. And, like I think we've seen a lot of these guys fights in the past already. So getting ready for this one was a fun one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like I think maybe this is the best one so far. I think even for me, maybe even more than Edwards and Usman. I guess like
Mhm.
there's a lot of hype on this one. We have some inside stories, so I think we're gonna have a lot of good information to share with the people who want to watch, and listen to us.
Yeah, and juicy main event, also pretty juicy undercard. So to start off the card, first of all, last week there was like a last minute or last day change up to the fight card. But as of Wednesday, this is the fight card. This is what we're starting with. We're starting with Johnny Walker versus Ion Kutilaba. I also heard Iwan Kutilaba. Are you familiar with that name?
Ian, I would say
Iwan.
Ian.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like
works for me.
whatever he Bruce Buffer say. We're gonna have to remember next time. We
That's
didn't
right. No,
prepare again for the name.
no hard suckers on this card. All right, so let's start. We got here's a fight card. Looking at this first fight, what are your thoughts? Who do you have in this one?
This one is really interesting. Looking for from fight aspect and like betting aspect. If you want to go, there is like a one more similar where we have like Ian is like a favorite minus 200. Johnny is like underdog with a plus 170. And similar situation is like what I was looking Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez.
Mhm.
Just in this scenario, like when I was looking at it, I was more prone like to go with Johnny Walker, and I think he is a good pick. Honestly, Kurtelaba is like aggressive, like in first round, and he's going like guns and blazing, like he's trying to take your head off. But like he's
Mhm.
not that unpredictable as Johnny Walker is, so he can more surprise uh, Kutelaba than Kutelaba can surprise Johnny Walker, even though he doesn't have that great defense. But
Mhm.
like for me, this is like maybe the best one on the whole fight card that you can start playing like with the underdog and go with Johnny Walker. I would say.
I think you broke it down pretty nicely. I think both of these guys are kind of reckless in how they come forward and what they throw. But when it comes to that unpredictability, you don't know what Johnny Walker is going to throw, whether it's like a weird kick or a weird elbow or a punch. Um, Ion Kutilaba, he's also kind of reckless, charges forward, but you know what he's going to throw. He really likes that right hand, whether it's a straight cross or an overhand right. Both of these guys, I think, kind of susceptible chins, right? They don't take a shot so easily. Um, I think if Ian Kutilaba can turn this into a grappling match, he's got a way to win. If it's striking, I kind of like Johnny Walker's chances in this fight, which would be great for him because I think he's been struggling as of late. Like, what kind of streak is Johnny on?
Two losses.
Two losses. I believe Ian Kutilaba, he's looking at kind of a similar record. I want to say in his last 5 fights or so, he's only won one. And similar to Johnny Walker, actually. But if you look at the record, it doesn't really speak to how exciting these guys fight, and they always bring the fight. I
Yeah,
rewatched that first Magomed fight that Iwan had or Ion had. That shit was kind of weird, man. Like, what do you think about that? Like, was he out on his feet? I kind of think it looked to me like he was pretending to be knocked out, like drunken style, like drunken tiger style, kung
yeah.
fu
He,
style.
he has that like, and I think he did in a couple of matches like where he's pretending and then going like, but still, I think it's like I think the referee anyway should let it go a little bit longer because it wasn't like that he had like 10 punches and then it was like just like more or less couple kicks. Was it two high kicks if I have it right?
I
What was it?
forget what it was. The one high kick that for sure he started, in my opinion, acting like he was rocked. And then I forget what actually put him out. I want to say there were some punches too, but there wasn't like one strike that made it look like, oh, now he's out, which made it a weird stoppage, I think, for the referee to step in at that time.
Yeah, I think they're professionals, like, and it wasn't like it was a fresh in the start of the fight, referee also like his concentration should be much higher, so for me that's like a bad stoppage for sure, so but like in the second fight, like you saw that their levels, like in his record class, like if you say like talking about back about Ankalaev, like and we said no X factor, like I mean that's his X factor. He's
Yeah.
super sharp, super precise, and if he see the opportunity, he will finish the match,
Hmm.
And with Kutelaba, there was like lot of openings, especially with his crazy aggressive style, and that's just like in my opinion, that I would his manager, I would say like just leave it on that. Like let's say it was a best because that's super bad
Yeah.
matchup for him,
Yeah. Yeah.
to be honest. But let's go back to this fight. What I want to say also, like talking about the chins, if we go to the not the last fight where like how how Johnny was knocked out by Jamal Hill, that was like really crazy, how he went down.
Mhm.
I don't know, that's like from the movies, I was thinking like he's faking, like I was like how the possible. It was basically like a sniper shot him from the top,
Yeah.
like
That's
where
some
the
good
like
acting, man. If he's making.
yeah, it was like something, and then Okay, you're done. And like he did a fight against Thiago Santos, pretty decent fight,
Yep.
where it was like close to go each way. And I think, in my opinion, Thiago Santos is he's powerful, maybe even more powerful than Kutelaba, and he's more unpredictable. So it's also a question like how much really that last fight against Hill. But I think his chin, like if we are like questioning again when he got KO'd by Corey Anderson, and he almost, even the fight that he won against Ryan Spann, he almost got finished, and he managed to pull out. And I think only like a bad decision by Ryan Spann and like not that great IQ in that situation. I don't want to say overall, like cost him that. Basically, he gave the win to Johnny Walker. So
Yeah.
we are talking that he didn't have that win against Ryan Spann, he would be on five losses streak. Even though he did decent against Santos,
Mhm.
and I think that's maybe making that odds on him so high. But I think that's like great pick for this weekend.
Similarly, like speaking of Ryan Spann, like Kuti Laba had a fight against Ryan Spann, and I think it was the exact opposite. He came in with the right game plan to grapple Spann, and it was a short fight, but he was doing well in the grappling, and then you don't see it often. Usually you see like a flash knockout that happens. You don't see like a flash submission, but with the guillotine sometimes you can, and that was exactly it. Like he was out grappling him, and then out of nowhere Ryan Spann throws up that high elbow guillotine, and he taps him pretty quickly, which is kind of weird. But I think if Ayn Kutilaba can grapple Johnny Walker and close the distance, maybe he has a chance. Um, to bring it back a little bit to Magomedov, one thing I noticed about Kutilaba is like in the striking, he likes the throwing punches. He doesn't throw a lot of kicks, but if you kick him, he'll kind of try to get you back with that same exact kick. And if he does that against Johnny Walker, I don't think he could keep up. So that could get him in trouble. Where like I think part of it is ego. Like, oh, you throw this kick, I'm gonna throw it back, and it's just not something that he's gonna be able to match against Walker.
Yeah, yeah, and very possible. That's why I think, and I say, I think Johnny Walker has more weapons to finish this fight and to win it. So we're gonna see. Again, it's a mental, and I think like I heard him somewhere talking like uh, that he really give emphasis on mental preparation and how he feels in that month, in that week, and it's a question where he is, because like also we saw him changing the camps, going from TriStar to, I don't even know how he went to Iron to SGB or to the Connors gym. Like I don't know. It's a question. Like, and I don't like how he put the blame on his coach in one. So for him, it's like he's awkward guy. Like, but
Yeah.
he has a lot of talent. It's just question what kind of Johnny Walker we're gonna see this weekend. But I think on plus 170, it's worth of trying to hope that we're gonna see the best version of him so far.
Mm-hmm. It's a very winnable fight for him. So those odds, if you're looking to bet on him, not a bad idea.
Yep. Let's go for the next one. Who we got?
All right, next up we got
Maybe.
Irene Aldana versus Macy Chiazon. How you feeling about this fight?
Oof. This one is very interesting for me. Like I didn't have opportunity to watch Irene too much, uh, but like now when I start watching some fights and rewatching some old fights, I really like her style, and she's a really interesting fighter. I amazing boxing. Like she's like heavy boxing oriented. Even though she has a kicks, she has a tight clinch, she has a submission, and I really don't know why she doesn't try to mix it up more. And but like I'm really impressed by her boxing, and especially using that front hand where she's finding hook to the body, and I think even like that hook to the body finish. Um, who I watched her last fight actually. Like, and I think that's
Yana Kunitskaya.
yeah. I think like if you see, I think she finished with the left hook. It was to the ground and pound. I think she took her down with the left hook. But what
Mm-hmm.
really opened it was that left hand to the ribs, to the
Yup.
liver, you know,
Yup.
and then she went like she made the same feint like she's going for the body and she ended up for the head. So I'm really impressed by her stand up. Uh, only time when she had a problem, it's like a type of the fighter like Caitlin Chokogian, Raquel Pennington, and Holly Holm. Especially like I was watching the Holly Holm fight and then I started rewinding. Like when she cannot close that distance. Uh, are they moving or they're using that front kick or the reach with the jab? When she cannot close and use that boxing range, she usually have a problem and she's losing those fights.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what actually she has, like maybe the biggest and the tallest girl with the biggest reach in the category.
Mm-hmm.
She's going against her, you know. So it's a big question. Like it's bad matchup for her, but like I think if she can, how to say, cut that distance and start using that boxing and even more mixing it up, I see her winning, But like it's basically like I said, worst possible matchup for her, like somebody who have that range, but like only lucky thing is like that Macy is not using that much movement. She likes to engage,
Yeah.
so that's good for Irene.
I completely agree. Like, I'm a fan of her boxing. I remember seeing a couple of her fights early in like Invicta before she got into the UFC, and I think like, man, if she adds more to her game, like I'm really impressed with her boxing, like male or female. Not a lot of people use body shots. Not a lot of people use jabs. We're seeing it more and more now, but like in what was it like 2015, 2016 when she was Invicta, I was like, yo, if she could bring this boxing to the UFC, this would be awesome. But like you said, the time she does have trouble is like when there's a kickboxing bout, right? Or like Rocky Pennington, where she could kind of get in your face and maybe grapple a little bit. So against Macy Chiasson, I think like Macy's got pretty good kickboxing. She likes to mix it up. She switches stances, so it's kind of hard to tell where she's coming from. And she will throw in some grappling, some takedowns here and there. So I think she has the style to beat Aldana. But one thing I didn't like after seeing Chiasson fight in her last fight against Norma Dumont is she's talking about her weight and her weight cut. She says at 35, at 135, she's killing herself to make weight. And even though she's bigger than these girls, she doesn't have the power at 135, right? And hearing them like, and you're making your return back to bantamweight, this doesn't make sense. This is someone who missed weight at 145.
Yeah,
She has trouble making 135, and now she's fighting Irene Aldana at 135. Like, it's just not a smart choice. I think she has a style to mix it up on Irene and give her trouble, but I mean, we've seen this multiple times. When you're cutting too much weight, it doesn't do the best for your chin, right? And against Irene Aldana, who does have some KOs on her records, like that's not a good combination. So you're right. If she mixes it up against Aldana, she could do well. If she gets tagged a little bit by Aldana, it could be a quick night. I'm really impressed with Aldana's boxing, both like those check left hooks like she got with Caitlin Vieja, and then also the body work that she did like pretty recently. Um, yeah, it just to me it doesn't make sense to just go back down to bantamweight. Stay at a weight class like you're having trouble making 145. But in her last fight, she did do pretty well against Norma Dumont, who has a similar style as Aldana because she likes to box a lot, not too much kick heavy.
yeah,
So I'm picking Aldana for this fight.
yeah. I agree with you, but on Aldana is minus 175, Macy is plus 150. And like I said, like I mean, I like Aldana, I like her style, like, and I think she has a like. she's favorite with a reason, you know. But
Mhm.
like again, saying about that bad matchup, bad style for her. If she cut that distance, like it's her fight almost for sure. You know, Macy would have to change, and she got even clipped, I think, against Dumont. You know, like and
Mhm.
then she switched to. She didn't look really good in the her last match. You know, so if I have to pick, I would pick Irene. You know, uh, but I would maybe play around with Macy, maybe in some parlays. You know, like not for big money, but like there's a big chance. You know, and to correct you, I think she said like she wants to fight a lot. So she's gonna play between two categories, you know, even though so it's her decision to be more active and to go. Like probably something similar what Amanda Nunes is doing, you know,
Yeah.
to and I think in 145 it's much easier for her to get that title chance, you know. But like in 135, you know, there is more opportunities to fight different opponents, you know. So I guess that's why she wants to play between two. But like you said, very interesting looking if she even missed the weight in 145, like, and she's super tall, 5'11", you know.
Yeah, and Aldana's not small for bantamweight either. Like she's a pretty long fighter, so this is going to be one fight where she's giving up that reach advantage that she sometimes is used to. So could that give her trouble, especially someone who does like to throw kicks? Um, could be. It's not bad money to put on Chiazon for that reason. Um, but yeah, I just like the hands of Aldana. The fan in me wants to see her box her up and then have to stuff some takedowns or maybe even play some jujitsu just for my own entertainment. But honestly, like the best chance Aldana has for winning is to keep it standing.
I agree, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Macy tried to take her down and Irene gets some submission. Like we saw that few times. Like her submission game is like really sharp and really good, especially
Mhm.
like we saw against Bet
Right?
Korea. How
Yeah.
would you say? Yeah, like that, like armbar from triangle from the back, like was like a really piece of art.
Yeah. I'd love to see it again. That'd be great.
I agree. Let's go for the next one. Who we got? Oh, ho, ho.
Next one. This is an entertaining fight. One thing I like about Kevin Holland is like win or lose, he's gonna find a way to some talk some shit during the fight and make it entertaining. This is a fight where it's like if you look at their resumes stacked up against each other, it's very clear Kevin Holland has faced the upper echelon of two different weight divisions, welterweight and of middleweight, more so middleweight. So I think being a natural welterweight, like he said before, he doesn't really like to cut weight or do like too much hard work and conditioning, and that's why he kind of entertained middleweight. Um, welterweight's where he belongs, and I think that's where he's going to be most successful, especially against Daniel Rodriguez, who like you can't say too much bad about his striking. It's very like fundamental, jab, cross, inside low kick because he is a southpaw, so he does throw that a lot. But I just think like against Kevin Holland, Kevin's a little bit better everywhere, in my opinion. And like I said, like he's not too far removed from guiding fighting guys like Derek Brunson and Marvin Vittori, guys who like have fought championship caliber fighters. So I think Kevin Holland, wherever this fight goes, he's probably going to be winning and probably going to be talking shit while he's doing it. What about you?
First thing, like when GM or Gerald Merschert was fighting last time, I promised like whoever was fighting Gerald or Kevin Holland first, I recommended even last time like their fight, like especially for the fans of jiu-jitsu and grappling. And I was like the impression that I had like that rewatching, uh, now I rewatched again, like,
Yeah.
and I'm now like just pulling like the best first round ever if you are into the grappling and jiu-jitsu. Like last time I said the whole match, and I said I'm gonna do the count of submissions, so we had basically in the first round, I think it was 3-3 full submission. I think like Kevin had a guillotine almost for a minute, and then uh, GM went for a guillotine. He almost finished the guillotine, and then I think Mercer had like a rear naked, and then he went to the bulldog choke, and from that bulldog choke, I think Holland went to rear naked, and then he had another like a semi rear naked. So it was like craziness in the first round. Again, I'm highly recommending all the fans of MMA and especially jiu-jitsu to watch. I think that's the best round if you're just looking grappling wise. Like I was last time I was saying whole match, but now I'm gonna cut it short and just at least watch those 5 minutes, first 5 minutes. You're not gonna regret. Uh, Let me go back where we at. Like I was saying, it's like minus 200 on Kevin Holland. It's plus 170 on Daniel Rodriguez. Uh, it's just like until his last two fight of Kevin Holland when he moved back to welterweight. He just looked amazing. Like he had two performances of the night. He finished one on TKO, other one on the submission. He just looks amazing. So I don't think the honestly that Rodriguez have a lot of chances. So that's why I said I think like even minus 200, it's Holland's fight. I think he's like forced to be reckoned, and I think he's like on the fast track to be like even challenger in that category. So that's more or less everything that I have to say. Short, but I'm 100% sure. I mean,
So
everything
you're
possible, but like I really see that he's gonna finish this one pretty easily.
Yeah, and I think if you're game planning to beat Holland, you gotta wrestle him and just hold him down. If you're too active, like we've seen it with GM3, if you're too active with the submissions, like he's so good with countering with the submissions and getting out of there. But if you look at like Derek Brunson and Marvin Vittori, how they did it, they didn't try to pass guard. They didn't really try too much ground and pound. They just held him down. And it's not exciting, but if you're gonna beat Kevin Holland, I think that's the way to do it. And Daniel Rodriguez, as like solid as his striking is, and it's simple and basic, and I don't mean that as an insult. Like I think you could get a lot done with like basic striking, um, but it's just not going to be enough for Holland. And I think if he has a weakness, it is in the grappling. So he doesn't have a lot of ways to beat Kevin Holland, but it is MMA. Like if he lands one strike, it could be the end of the night. I know you're picking Holland. Betting wise, is this a bad fight to bet on?
I don't think so because like I really see like minus like I said like for parlay it's okay. Like now like I always said like anything that's above minus 170 180 for me you really have to be sure. I'm sure, but like I wouldn't put any big money on it. Like I'm gonna um, go and put it through some parlays to some like systems maybe. But like I'm not gonna put like big money on it. Like I don't like me personally. Like how to say, I don't like playing on favorites. Like but
Mhm.
like you see like always where I can find something for the underdog, even like in the previous fight, I'm gonna find something and I'm gonna try to work with it and see how much that can be utilized in the match. Like here, I don't see anything like except like you said, there is a punch. Of course, like Kevin can try something and fall on his nose and KO himself. That's possible. But like I don't see that he has any weapons that he can really, and so I can justify this betting.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Let's go on to the next one.
I
We
agree.
got a veteran in Tony Ferguson versus what I think is like maybe a promising up and comer. He's not new to the UFC. He's definitely got some fights, but I think he's kind of young in the division right now. Li Jingliang versus Tony Ferguson. What are your thoughts on this fight?
First thing, like, and I'm glad that you said that. But like, what do you think? How long is like Lee Yingling in UFC?
How long has he been in the UFC?
8 years, brother.
8 years.
8 years. But
He's
like,
kind of skated by under the radar for a little
yeah,
bit.
that's actually what I wanted to say. Like how I spot him even earlier. Like what really I think put him on the map. It was like KO when he KO Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Ponzinibbio.
Yeah,
Uh,
Santiago. Let's go with Santiago. I'm really bad with the last names. That's obvious. That really put him on the map, and that gave him like a fight against Kamzat.
mhm.
So before that, like even he beat some good guys. I know, especially because it comes from the Europe. David Zavada, even though he didn't have like maybe the best, like he's one super good fighter. Like even though in UFC he really didn't show it, and I think he's even cut from UFC, but like he's really good fighter, and Lee beat him. That's how I gotta. And also like when he KO'd or no, he beat Frank Camacho. But I know Frank Camacho because like when I was 15 years ago in Washington D.C., I trained with him at Lloyd Irvin. So
Oh,
that's how because the guys who I ever have a chance to train or to share the gym, I always like to follow them and support them. And that's how I first time spotted the Lee. And
mhm.
like I said, that's why I ask you that, because for the most people, I think like they remember him from the fight with the Kamzat. He's like basically part of the Kamzat highlight.
Yeah.
And what was brought him to that opportunity, what was like KO against Santiago.
Hmm.
But he's long time, in UFC. So um, he's not a fresh guy, and I think even though that he fought even Magni, this is gonna be biggest name if he managed to beat Tony Ferguson, and I
Hmm.
think he's really motivated to do it. And what showed me that, like he even changed in this year, he changed the gym. He moved to Sanford MMA. So I that's showing to me at least that he's hungry to improve, and that maybe the best days are in front of him. Talking about Tony, I don't know what to say after that uh, KO. Oof, that was, I think, one of the most brutal KOs in UFC. So and that was like how much? That was like not even 5 months ago, 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's soon. That's pretty soon to come back.
Yeah, and I think you talk about it like people getting too fast back in UFC. Usually in boxing, you have like, I don't know, if you suffer the KO, you have such a longer time to recover. And here, like,
1 year is standard in boxing.
yeah, like he's coming back after like that crazy KO where he was like flatted. Like if you see the picture, his face and that leg, it's like, I don't know. You can just paint it and sell it and make a fortune. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I don't want to celebrate like a bad KO, but there's this one hilarious tweet that Conor McGregor put out calling him a chicken nugget, like how he got turned into a chicken nugget, which is just hilarious because for their whole rivalry, Tony Ferguson has been calling him a chicken McNugget. So I just thought it was like perfect and also distasteful, which is just on par with Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
But
lately,
can you remember the last time Tony Ferguson won? Do you remember his last win?
I think it was against Cowboy
Yeah,
3 years ago. Yeah, I have it here,
yeah,
June 8th, 2019.
Yeah, a little bit ago, and he's not fighting any slouches. He's taking the toughest fight all the time. So like credit to Tony for that. But I think he's kind of been at the end of his career, and I hate to say it, like we were talking about last fight, you could get kind of lucky. You could find that one strike and change the outcome of the fight like that. I think if Li Jingliang slips on a banana peel twice in there, he's still gonna win this fight against Tony Ferguson. It's Tony Ferguson, even when he's winning a fight, he finds a way to get rocked, to get dropped, to get a little bit beat up, and he's so fucking tough that he just toughs through it and he beats the guy up more than they beat him up. Like with Anthony Pettis, he got dropped in that fight, and he just Pettis broke his hand, but even before that, he was kind of beating up Anthony Pettis. Who was it? Lando Venata dropped him, and he found a way to win. Kevin Lee, same thing. He was beating up on Tony. Tony found a way to get that triangle. Even Edson Barboza. Like, there's a bunch of these fights where like Tony just figured a way to like pull it off. He's a tough motherfucker. Credit to him, and he just finds a way to win. And then we just saw that caught up to him against Justin Gaethje and so on. Like again, he's not losing to slouches, but I think that four fight lose streak where he's just taken kind of like horrific damage, and now he's moving up in a weight class against someone who's he just got done KOing someone. This is a bad time to be fighting. Like it's 4 months since he got knocked out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the leech will slip on a banana peel and then like that's how he wins. But I don't see a way that Tony can win. Am I crazy?
No, no, no. You're completely right. Like I'm even worried. Like even the before what happened with his situation. Like there was like a different stories that he was unstable, like this, that, and now especially like more and more going from the war to war. Like from Justin Gaethje to Charles Oliveira, who completely dominated him in all aspects of the fight. Like we never saw Tony, the I think that was like even worse than those KOs. Like seeing him like completely helpless, like even to do anything on the ground, where he was like, if you remember before what we were saying, like that he can only threaten Khabib from the ground. Like and then like to Benel the Rouge, and then to Michael Chandler, and that really really really, you can say amazing or terrifying KO. Depends who you cheer for. But like, um, I don't see, especially now moving the category in that short notice. Like 4 months. You need like also like, are you going category down? You're going category up. You need to let your body get used to it on that.
Mhm.
Because like your body is used to it. Like when he last time fought in welterweight, I think he won the welterweight tournament, Ultimate Fighter 13 welterweight tournament. Yeah, where
Yep.
he had a knock, and then after that, that was like 2011. All his fights were in lightweight. So,
Yep.
and now you're moving to the other category after heavy KO. For
Yeah.
me, like it's just like on the paper, like anything, like you said, banana peel can happen. But like we are saying, like what's most likely gonna happen. If you want to make a money, you just like take the information that you have and you go with what's most likely. Especially like, and it's not even, I mean, it's minus 305 on Yinlang. So for me that's not a good one, but like you can maybe play it maybe in some parlay, and just like connect with few others, and but like I really don't see, I mean, except any craziness that Tony can win this fight. Like even though it's not like super tough challenge, like when you see the names that he went
Mhm.
against, but again it's a category up, and it's a guy who is, I think, like especially like I said, moving to the new gym, like after so many years and experience, like he may be trying to catch that last win. He's 34. Maybe he's like thinking that he have few more years and he want to change something to get. And I think the hungry guy, Tony's only I think fighting with some demons or I don't know what. I don't know why he's fighting. He is more or less legend.
Yeah. And
He was
it's kind of scary. Like I read like the kind of police reports, which is not the same as like court testimony. It's not necessarily fact, but if you're gonna believe like the police reports, it's not looking good, and it's kind of troubling to be honest. Like that he is still fighting. So if he happens to lose this fight, like maybe it's time to call it. I wouldn't mind seeing him in like some jujitsu matches, like super fights. I think he's got nice jujitsu, but maybe take a break or just call it for MMA.
yeah, and honestly, what else he can do? Like the biggest, I think, like loss or how to say the sad story of his career, and not even just his career, us as a fan, that we didn't get that fight with Khabib. And now is the question, what else he can do? Like you said, and probably like you're right, and my opinion is the same. That like too much damage that he had over the years, and those grueling wars, they're taking the toll. Like it's just like everything is coming uh to pay. Like his bill is there, and just like you have to pay. And now especially moving to the category up where everything is even more expensive. uh, I wish him all the best, but like I don't see like many stories like how the fighters end up, and that's one of the things that I was like, even like when we talk about the name why we say MMA clinic is about that. We don't have the information what's happening, like, because everything is so, the sport is like so fresh, but still we have like what's happening with some people, and it's really sad, like, and especially when they don't know how when to cut and try to at least a little bit recover their brain. And um, but again, I guess it's like a hard. It's like a now. I think the best. Like I was watching the Usman, and somebody said like about the high. I don't know with who he did the interview, but that high after the fight, going for that moment, preparing everything to that moment, and then after that, like you just get addicted to that,
Mhm.
and I think that's why it's so hard for the fighters. Like you're like fighting, and that's that moment, or you're preparing for the next moment when you're gonna fight. And there is nothing like if you get addicted to that, there is nothing like that feeling like during the fight, especially if you win.
Yeah.
Just entering the cage, like the people cheering you or booing you. Like it's a high that's like unimaginable. Like so. Unfortunately, some people like get too much obsessed with it, and they don't know when to stop. And we don't still know how big it's gonna be impact on some fighters, especially the older generation who sparred really hard. And I think we're gonna talk a little bit about that in the next matchup. I had like something in my head that I wanted to talk, and I was thinking, should I or should I not, about like hard sparring in all stars, and
Yeah.
in the next matchup we have the all star. So I'm gonna leave it to you.
That's a perfect segue into our next matchup. But real quick, just to confirm, you are picking the Leech in here, Li Jingliang.
Yeah, Leech here, like even minus 305. I mean, I wouldn't play it as by itself, like, but like in some parlays, yes, yes. I think Tony, like, unfortunately, I don't give him a chance to win.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I don't see it either. It'd be cool to see a win, but at the same time, if he wins, he's gonna fight more welterweight or yeah, more welterweights. I don't like that either. So we'll see what happens. I hope if it's his last fight that he could at least give a good showing.
I agree.
Next up in the main event, highly anticipated, we got two characters in the sport. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz. Who you got in this one?
Oof, I don't know. I mean, on minus 1250, or even one moment I saw minus 1400. Like
Holy
it's
shit.
crazy. Like I don't know. Like we can talk about only about the fight, not about the betting. If you want to put your money, like just play around. Like it's plus 800 on Diaz. And
Yeah.
like I said, if somebody can bring the banana peels in the octagon and throw them and guide you to that banana peel and then punch you directly in the face in KO or wrap up some submission, that's Nate Diaz. You know, like especially like what's going on with all drama about this matchup. Like Dana White saying he wanted this matchup, he's saying he didn't want, and even now they mentioned some story about altercation in the bar from before. Like they're just trying to hype up the match. I think on so many crazy ways, you know, and it's already hyped pretty much. Like you saw, also comes up with who it was, our friend Paulo Costa. Like what happened
Oh yeah.
there, like a lot of craziness is going with this matchup, you know, and I don't even know what to say, you know, like from the betting aspect, I don't know, like it's just like makes sense to play on Nate
Yeah.
and like expect that he gonna repeat the Connor moment, you know. uh Especially I think like maybe like in those how to say wrestling exchanges, maybe he can wrap up some submission or like even like from some ground and pound or scramble, like how he rolls, he can maybe roll in something. There is a chance, like I'm saying,
Yeah.
like for me it makes more sense like to test your chance on Nate than on Tony, like to be honest, because I think also like the Diaz brothers, when they go in that crazy mode, when they feel that everybody's against them, like uh, whole world hates them, like UFC, then like they can surprise. Like I mean, like you saw what happened in the last fight. Ian Edwards was beating him for how long, and then he managed to almost finish him in the fifth round. You know, so maybe that's gonna happen now. I mean, I highly doubt it, and we're gonna talk about like the inside information that we got about our friend Boyan was there, and he trained with the Kamza. They actually brought him. Uh, they brought him as um, to emulate Nate Diaz, and I was like, I didn't see any resemblance. Only that they're like southpaws both, and then they're like a similar maybe build, like height wise. But like when I talked with Boyan, he told me like, and I forgot that he actually beat two guys from the All Star. He
Mm.
beat like Nike Musoku, where he had like I think performance of the night or KO of the night, and he got the his only bonus in UFC, and he went against the guy like even when I was. I think I was in Sweden in 2011 in All Stars train, like that was the guy that everybody was talking about, you know, like Jonathan Westin, like and Boyan also fought him in PFL and managed to finish him in the second round. And even nowadays I heard from Boyan like everybody's like talking like even now the I think he's the guy who is giving the most trouble to Kamzat at the gym, you know.
Fuck
So
yeah.
they're really highly how to say have a high opinion about Jonathan, and I think that's why they brought Boyan because he beat like basically two guys for their gym, and plus like he's a little bit like uh, like at least like a southpaw and similar height, so they brought him in for that. And he said like he's really impressed with Kamzat, like especially his work ethic, and the pressure that he puts in. Like he said, like I never saw something like that. You
Mm.
know. He's just like he can outwork anyone, you know. And that's talking about that's one of the most um, the best weapon on Nate Diaz. You know, like when he starts bringing the guys in the deep waters and try to make them to be out of the gas. That's not gonna happen against Kamsa. Power is on his side, wrestling is on his side. So I don't see, like I said, I don't see that Nate Diaz have a lot of things to work except maybe like pulling out some crazy submission. What's what's possible from some wrestling or scrambling exchanges.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And the thing is, like, if it's a 3 round fight, then in my mind, there's no doubt Kamzat is gonna dominate for the majority of the fight, as much as he wants. But the fact that it's 5 rounds makes me think maybe like in those later rounds, maybe Nate can pull something off if he can manage to get Kamzat tired, which like we've seen in the Gilbert Burns fight, like even if he did start to slow down, like he's still bringing the pressure anyway. One thing that we saw is like this is the first time like Kamzat when he fought Burns, this is the first time he actually had a fight, like in the UFC. Because every other fight, like I don't even know if you can call that a fight. He didn't even get punched. He was just dominating, finishing guys however he wanted. Um, but even though like Burns showed everyone that Chimaev is human, like he can actually get rocked, get dropped. Burns has a different level of power than Nate Diaz does. What I will say is that when Burns is beating him, it's with the boxing. So Nate Diaz, he doesn't have the power Burns does, but I think he's got pretty solid boxing. So if he could survive 3 rounds, like that's why I would agree. If you're gonna put money, like put it on Nate Diaz, not because you think he's gonna win. Like I think he might get ragdolled for most of it, but he has a chance in the later rounds, and he does have good boxing. The thing is, like we've seen this before. We've seen Nate Diaz fight someone who can wrestle. We've seen him against like RDA, Rafael dos Anjos. We've seen him against Rory McDonald, and he didn't do too well against those guys. They were taking him down at will. And Kamzat is just a different animal. Like he's kind of new to the UFC. Like he's got some fights because he fought like on short notice so many times. But like, I think even for the hardcore fans that see this new up and comer, like they're saying like, he belongs here at the top of the division, especially after what he was doing with Gilbert Burns. Like, so I think he's just kind of a better version of maybe Rory McDonald and RDA. And for those reasons, I don't think Nate has a good chance. But 5 rounds, who knows?
No, I agree with you, but like if you go back to also like I think he produced even more power than Masvidal. If uh, Nate Diaz like with his scar tissues on his face, also that's the big factor, you know.
Yeah.
Like let's say Masvidal didn't finish him, but the fight was done, you know, like he couldn't finish it because it was a doctor stoppage. Am I right? Yeah, TKO
Yep.
doctor stoppage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the big factor too. You know, like it's a question again, like how much Nate Diaz really want to fight. Like even like really we were expecting talking about Nick Diaz, like how he showed up against Robbie Lawler. I don't know also like where is Nate with his head, you know, with the situation with UFC. Does he want to fight? He want to do some super fights, you know, like there is so many factors in this match, you know. And I mean, when you don't have too much option, like you said, like only rational option is like here to play, to not play it at all, or to play on Nate Diaz, you know.
Yeah.
So talking about that, like it's interesting, like the statistic that I pulled, like believe it or not, Nate Diaz is 15-11 in UFC.
Shit.
Yeah.
You
So
you wouldn't expect that record to be in the main event against someone like Chimaev. But that
Yeah,
actually reminds me, you know what? I heard someone say it earlier this week. Nate Diaz is a kingmaker. If
yeah,
you if
that's
you
an
beat
interesting
Nate
fact.
Diaz, you're gonna fight for a title, and you might even become champion. Like, look at his record, right? Leon Edwards, he beat Nate Diaz. He fought for the title. He actually won. Same with Masvidal. Like, he fought Nate Diaz, beat him, and then he fought Usman twice. Even Conor McGregor, he lost to Nate Diaz. They ran it back, immediate rematch. He beats Nate Diaz. All right, go fight Eddie Alvarez for a title. Same with RDA. Like, as bad or whatever you want to say about his record, 15 and 11, whatever you think about that, the people in the UFC think pretty highly of Nate Diaz because if you beat Nate Diaz, they're going to give you a title shot. He's the kingmaker.
Yeah, and when you go back, he had like 8 fight of the night. He had 5 submission of the night when submission of the night existed. So
Yeah.
he comes long time before the modern era, like one KO of the night, believe it or not, and one performance of the night. So if you go like, he's really attractive. He's bringing the fight, especially against the guys who are willing to fight and trade. Like only like you mentioned, like Dos Anjos, I think like smother him with the wrestling. Rory McDonald also, like he doesn't like that type of people who are gonna wrestle and try to shut him up. He likes that crazy exchanges, like he had with Leon Edwards, and like he managed to make the fight like almost his in the fifth round. Yeah, like
Yeah.
there is always chance that he will do something and that he can get like fight to go in his direction.
Yep.
But
And like I'm a fan of both of these guys, right? Probably, well, definitely a fan of Nate Diaz for longer because he's been in the UFC for a long time now. But if you ask the hardcore Nate Diaz fans, he's only lost one fight against Josh Thompson. Every other fight, he just ran out of time. Like, so that shows like how he fights. Like, he always has that chance at the end. And if it goes to the decision, well, he just ran out of time. He was probably going to submit him if there was another round or 2 rounds. So, I mean, he's in the main event for a reason. He always puts exciting fights, and he talks a good game too. Like, I don't know if you listened to this last interview that he did with like Brett Okamoto. If not, you should take a listen. It is pretty cool just to see how he thinks of like the history of like his career and the lightweight division and just like the championships of the UFC. I thought it was pretty interesting.
yeah, I didn't listen. I'm gonna listen for sure. But talking about that, I think this is the first guy who would beat even that there is no limit, because like what I heard
Yeah.
from Boyan, and when I was there, like let's go back to the story that I want to tell, like
Share it, share it.
how they train an all star, like that's crazy, like the work ethic, how they push, is just like another level. When they finish the training or the sparrings, like they have certain days when they go and when they run the intervals, like so they are doing like a sprints on the time limit. They're doing like 800 meters, I think under 2 minutes run. It's just like crazy how good prepared these guys are. Also, I have like a pretty interesting story, like, and let's say Boyan, like what he told me, how they like basically they brought him in, they pay everything for him, and he had an accident and he got injured after first sparring,
Hmm.
um, and he couldn't train anymore, and they were like super nice towards him. They were like, especially the head coach. And I had a different experience, my friend had a different experience. We have like an opinion about him that he's like a, I don't know, like a butcher, like
Hmm.
just like the top guys prosper, everyone else, like, you're gonna be the meat to feed to the top of the dog, and especially if you come from the side, they just look like additional meat, but
Yeah.
like Warren had really good experience, and he had really good words about how they treated him over there. Compare, like, I mean, like what I had like when I was there, even though I was like more at that point, like on jiu-jitsu side, I did only one sparring in the cage, what they do twice a week, and that's why I say like it's really like how they train. It's like really hard, and I'm like wondering like how those guys, because they at that time at least, that was like 10 years ago, they had like a two hard sparring in the week, like plus additional sparrings where you do like a kickboxing, but like twice a week you go to the cage, and in the cage you more or less you have a full equipment, but you're having the match, you know,
Mhm.
and uh, what was the point? Like when I was there, I went against two brothers. They were like Muay Thai champions, and I think both of them end up in UFC. I think one is still in UFC. Temurian, I don't know what's Daniel, and I don't know. They were fighting 155, 145, something like that.
I think I know who you're talking about. One of them was in the Ultimate Fighter too, right?
Yeah, could be, could be. I
Yeah,
didn't check out. Okay, I wasn't prepared. Like I was thinking to
yeah.
skip maybe this story, but like when we were already there. And honestly, like I had nine matches. I spar like in Serbia. We spar pretty crazy, you know. Even though I didn't train that much, I try to avoid training whenever possible, considering it's MMA. Uh, but like that sparring was the worst experience for me ever in my life,
Damn.
because like they were really trying to take my head off. Like
Uh,
I even in one moment, like one of the brothers knock out my headgear off my head.
shit.
Yeah, it was that bad. Like, and the worst thing is like I take them down, I manage to submit them, but then get up, more beating. Like
Right.
I know it was like so bad. I was so pissed, and I pick up one so high. I think it was end of the round, and I was ready to go and to throw him and to sink him with my shoulder, like to spear him. And he
Yeah.
started like I was like, I just let him to go down nice, but I was like that pissed after that, like, and especially like the cage is there, the coaches are on the side, and they're just saying to them what to do, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was really feeling like, you know, like worse than every match, like I said, because like everything is so intimate and everybody is like against you, you
Right,
know.
right.
After that, I went for jujitsu training, and I was sitting in the corner, and I was like start crying like a girl, you know. I was like, this wasn't nice. I didn't feel good, you know. I was like, fuck this shit, you know, like.
Did you just go to there to train? Were you in a training camp for one of your fights, or what was
No,
what brought you there?
I just went to train. Like my friend, actually, my best friend from MMA world, like from there from Serbia. He had a booked fight in Poland, and
Mm.
so we went into Sweden. I think it was like last 2 weeks of his preparation, but I went even like 2 weeks before him. His father got us very nice apartment, so I was there almost for a whole month. He was like a little bit less over there. So we went from the Sweden for his fight in Poland. We came back to Sweden, stay a little bit more, and then we went back to Serbia. But like I trained more. Mostly before he came, I just trained jujitsu, and then when he came there, I did a little bit more MMA. You know, help him to prepare, and also like just to experience. Like at that period, I really had like a, how to say, I just trained MMA before my fights. I really
Yeah.
didn't like to train, and like I got a fight, then I go like 2 months, even sometimes less than months preparing for the fight. Everything else, I was staying away. You know, like this pretty face, I don't like to get punched.
Yeah,
I'm
you
too
gotta you
sensitive.
gotta keep that intact. Was All Star Gym, was that the hardest training that you've had, like hardest sparring that you've had?
Not really hardest training, because I didn't train too much with them, to be honest. Like, you know, like I said, only when my friend was there, and I did couple with those group of people. Mostly like I did with jiu-jitsu crew, you know, like, and I have like some friends, like even nowadays I'm still like time to time I exchange the messages, you
Yeah.
know. So I more stay on jiu-jitsu side, even though like I think I had a fight a little bit after that, maybe 5 or 6 months after that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like only when my friend came, then I started going to. And actually, funny story, like how even they got me to go. I really didn't want to go to that sparring, because I knew what's going on, and I was like, "Fuck no!" I just came to like relax, to train jujitsu, like pick up some new knowledge, like little bit, like pick up also MMA knowledge through him, and like how they got me. I was supposed to go even with a smaller guy than. I mean, I was then fighting in 145. The brothers were like 145, 155,
Yeah.
and the other guy was like I think even like 135, 125. And like to help to prepare him. I don't remember his name, but he was one of the smallest guys at the gym. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take him down. I was like really not in the mood to go. I was like, I'm just gonna take him down. I'm not gonna go even for the finish. I'm just gonna go let the time go and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I came there and I got surprised, like two world class Muay Thai guys. Hello, Alex. Welcome to Sweden. So talking about that, like I never had like a good opinion because I think only top dogs like a Gustafsson, like now comes at it, like
Mhm.
they're prosper. Everybody else, like I think they're not managing to get the full potential. I think because of the hard training that they have, but also like the hard training that they do gives them opportunity to be where they are. So you know, like who am I to talk and to criticize his way
Right.
of work? You know, I'm just saying like what I saw and it didn't suit me. Let's say like that. You
Yeah.
know, and talking about like that, like how nicely they were to Boyan, you know, like I need to go back to the story of one guy. He was from Canada. He came to train with us in Serbia. Like even, I think he came also the similar time when I was in Sweden. He came to Sweden from Belgrade, and he even got a room, like in All Star. Like he came over there to train, and so basically they really use him as a meat. And I think he
Oh,
even have a concussion after first day, and they still force him to go every day to spar.
fuck.
Because like he had to, I think if he's lying, I'm lying. Like he had to go. Like usually the guys who train over there, they had like two times or one time a week those kind of sparrings. But they use him more or less every day for sparrings like that. Yeah, and I think he said first or second day he got like a concussion, you know, and they were like,
Jesus.
still, no, you're getting a room, you have to go, like you have to go, you have to go. And at the end, that guy picked up his and he just ran away. He said, "I escaped. Like I didn't say bye to anyone. I just pick up my stuff and I left the gym." I was laughing like when I heard that. Like
Oh
that guy is
god.
really something. You know, like he's Canadian. He came to Serbia. Like even like I think he convert to Orthodox religion. Really interesting guy. Like and that was his experience with All Star. Not so great.
Yeah. Probably the last time that he's been to Stockholm. Never
I
again.
believe so. I didn't talk with him for years. Like even when I moved here, actually I talked with him once or twice, and I lost the contact. So I don't know where's that crazy guy. Maybe after this I'm gonna shoot him message to see what's up.
Well, it sounds like they're doing something right for some of those guys.
No, for sure. Like I say, that's my opinion. You know, like for that guys who didn't break through, I think they're taking a lot of damage. Like for the
Yeah.
guys who are top dogs, like Gustafsson was. Like, I mean, some guys really love it. Like, actually, the All Star is the gym that most Serbians went. Like even before, that's
Mm.
how me and my friend end up in All Star because like I think two times. Different guys from the gym where we train MMA, where I train with them MMA, they were already in Sweden, you know, and they spar with Gustafsson and everything, and they say like he spar with us like here that, and they're all smaller guys. They were
Yeah.
170, 155. Doesn't matter. Like I mean, probably he didn't go to KO them, but he didn't spare them, you know. He was
Yeah.
going because he didn't have like a guys his size, you know, so it was just going around. But they love it. I honestly, if I would get beat up one time by Gustafsson, I would leave. Even
Yeah.
maybe during the round.
Maybe they've eased up a little bit nowadays on the sparring, but I mean, I'm interested to see how it takes a toll on Kamzat. I think we might have talked about it a little bit, but not as much as in detail last time Gustafsson fought, right? Because like maybe now he can't take the same damage that he could before, but hopefully that's different for Kamzat.
I mean, like what I heard, he is now top dog at the gym. You know, like so, and he is like young, and he didn't have like a wars. If you look only the last fight, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, so I don't forget that another thing that I wanted to say, I would give much more chance to Nate Diaz that Kamza didn't have the last fight with Gilbert Burns, because that what happened to him and was like, I think, a lesson for him.
Yeah.
You know, like the how he get in the brawl. I mean, if you see even like his coach between the round, I think second and third, like how he was screaming on him, how he was pissed. You know, like don't go technical, go technical. I think that was a big lesson, and I think that's why like I give him a last chance to Nate Diaz in
Mhm.
this fight, because like I think Kamzat learned his lesson, and it's not gonna happen. Like, and he was close to guess out, but like what we said and what we learned about him, that he have like a unlimited tank, like maybe like even more than Nate Diaz, you know. So I don't think it's gonna happen again to him.
Yeah. And that's one thing that like I do agree with, like not all fighters learn that lesson, but right after the fight when he was talking with like Megan O'Leary, he said that like he went into the fight kind of not respecting like Gilbert Burns in the sense that he thought he was just gonna finish him right away. He didn't expect him to be tough. So he said like himself, that's something moving forward he's got to be ready for. Like for these tough guys, he can't expect to finish it right away all the time. But like, who can blame him? I think in the first like four fights in the UFC, he didn't even get punched and he was just finishing everybody. So to be honest, I kind of thought he was gonna beat Gilbert pretty fast. Like I want to say, yeah, he landed a jab and that dropped Gilbert. I was like, all right, here we go again. And then Gilbert survives for two more rounds and takes it to him. So I do think like with some guys, it's not always the case that they learn that lesson. But with Kamzat, I think like he said it right away. He was pretty aware of that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the big factor, you know, like that wasn't there. I would like really maybe like be intrigued even to put some like little bit bigger money like on the Nate Diaz. That like I said, that's one of the factors that I think, yeah, you know, like it's just like a maybe like a not even puncher's chance, because like let's be honest, like Nate Diaz, but like if some crazy like exchange, like I said, like if Conor McGregor scenario repeats
Yeah.
again, you know, that's the only way how I see that he can win this fight, you know, like to have the perfect night, and to finish it like that way, like from some exchanges like to submission.
Yeah, and like one thing you mentioned about Nate Diaz is like it depends on his mentality if he even wants to be there, if he wants to fight. One kind of like concerning thing that he said in the Brett Akamoto interview I was talking about is he didn't want that fight. Like Dana White was saying that Nate Diaz asked for the fight, and he's like, no, he didn't want the fight. He didn't want to fight Kamzat, and now he's gonna fight Kamzat. So it's like shit, man. Like doesn't look too good. If you're a fan of Nate Diaz, that's not exactly what you want to hear. But who knows? Like, I mean, I think once he gets in there, and he has to fight, he's gonna give everything that he can. But it's also not exactly like the best place to be if you don't want to fight this guy.
No, I agree. I agree, 100%. Like, you know, but we're gonna see. Like you said, that's the Diaz brothers. You know, you never know with them. Will they show up? How they gonna show up?
Yeah,
Or are they gonna sleep half match and then wake up and finish? But again, like what we are forgetting, like as a fans and as a human beings, you know, like what's happening, like we forget about the father of time or mother of time, however it's proper
yeah,
to
yeah,
see. You know, he's 37. You know,
yeah,
he's not what he was. So that's that's the big factor, you know. So
yeah. And against a guy that knocks out middleweights, it's not the best scenario for Nate Diaz. I think this is a classic scenario of the UFC wants to kill this guy on the way out, and I think a lot of people are viewing it that way. Like, um, that picture you sent me by Dostbrock was fucking awesome. That's perfect. Like that's exactly what everyone is looking at the fight as. Like Nate Diaz is on his way out, and the last fight on his way out, the UFC is giving him probably the biggest killer in the division. You know, he's not a champion yet, but I think, like we said before, like if he beats Nate Diaz, he's gonna fight for the belt.
Yeah, and okay, we start talking to. I guess this fight we got into the hype also. Like I was like, are we? And we are still talking about this fight, and we can talk, I think, still for 30 minutes. But let's cut it
Yeah, I mean
short. Like
it's
just
a very intriguing fight. You got one guy who's been in the UFC for so long, like whether you love him or hate him, like you kind of want to see him win, especially on his way out. And then I think like Kamzat, he's the new up and comer who's just dominating everybody. It makes for an interesting fight.
no, it is, and it's narrative of the fight, especially now. Like I said, how they hyping even now. Like Kamzat getting a problem with our favorite guy Paulo Costa. Uh, Things happening on the side now between Dana White and Nate Diaz. They're now mentioning like so many things that actually like what's selling the fights story. And I
Hmm.
guess Dana White is really good at that. Uh, like forcing some narrative, changing, like and that's for me. Like I really would like to pick a brain on that guy because like some people say one story, some like in him saying like I like Nick and Nate, and then
Yeah,
like they're terrible to work with. Yeah, there were sometimes like I'm like, are you bipolar? Like how it changed so much, like and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's happening with the guys like who have absolute power. Like he's treating people however he wants, you know,
Hmm.
and only at some point when he really have to respect you, then he's like, what happened with the corner? Even
Yeah.
now, like he's trying to with Nanganu, like and like I think honestly because like he have Cyril now that I think it's even more attractive than Francis.
Hmm.
So he's like trying to push and trying like to his ego be in front, not to give to guy who really deserves maybe something else, and he will maybe even live the sport on some higher level if he do like a boxing match against Fury. I don't see
Hmm.
he have a lot of chance, but he have a puncher's chance. Even more than Conor had against Mayweather.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just see like a big ego that like wants everything to be how he thinks it should be.
Yeah. Speaking of MMA fighters going to boxing, I know we're called the MMA clinic, but if Nate Diaz decides to leave the UFC and he decides to box Jake Paul, are we going to do a breakdown for that?
Maybe we should do it live streaming. Like I don't know. We're gonna do it for sure. Like
You know, to be honest, when Jake Paul fought Ben Askren, I fucking and he knocked him out, I just turned my computer straight off. So if we do a live stream and Jake Paul knocks Nate Diaz, I can't promise I'll stay for the end of it. I'm just gonna turn that shit off and leave, man. But
yeah.
hopefully it doesn't come down to that. We'll see.
I mean, honestly, like even though I'm not too much in all that bullshit, I really get upset every time when some fighter. I don't know, like after the Woodley, like and especially when he did that to you, how low you can go. That's
Yeah.
maybe like he should like if continue fighting. Who was singing that song? What was the name of the guy? How low you can go? Ludacris. That should be his next um, entrance to the match. Because like I think really like after being UFC champion, like trying to I don't know what happened with his singing career or rap career. I don't know. That sing down like and he went like that's talking about I don't want to talk shit about the guy, but that's like what we are talking, like not to know when to get out. Like,
Yeah.
like cash, like I don't know. It's just like it I know it's hard. You know how
Yeah.
many times I'm like pissed I didn't do enough what I was supposed to do and I'm thinking, oh I should go, try, but like I feel like age is coming, like your wish, like a new hungry guys are coming, like, and even now talking about like guys that you have like from fight sport now that they're fighting 20 something, especially Mika Galvao. Like that's
Mm,
the new level. Like,
yeah,
they're the guys who are like exiting, they don't have a chance anymore against, like, like
yeah,
at least find your career, like fight like some pick your fights to stay active, and then
yeah,
just like slowly find something else that's gonna occupy your life, and find your happiness there, because like this, honestly, it's like all addictions,
yeah,
and maybe we're gonna talk next time about gambling. I always joke like I'm degenerate gambler, but like
yeah,
I know my limit.
yeah,
Everything can be like a poison and a cure, more or
hmm,
less everything. I'm not gonna say everything, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's just like the dosage. Same like fighting. How many people life it saved, but like how many like we see now it's destroying. I mean,
yeah,
you cannot be sorry of them because like they're full of money and this and that. It's only their, like, let's say,
yeah,
status or dignity. But after tomorrow, nobody cares if they make more money. But
right,
again, what you gonna do after with your life? Like we
yeah,
saw what happened with BJ Penn. Like I don't know what's happening now, but like that incidents, like what we hear about, that's just like a, I think, tip of the iceberg. Who knows what's going on underneath?
yeah. And it kind of brings it back a little bit to that Tony Ferguson situation. I hope we don't see like some of these stories that we were seeing with like BJ Penn on his way out, and see more of that with Tony Ferguson. But a whole different topic that kind of ties into this is like it is the money, like you said, and it kind of speaks to like not only the addiction of winning and feeling that high, but like they see there's more, a little bit more money in these freak shows in the boxing. Even for a champion like Tyron Woodley, he sees like, hey, there's a bigger payday to fight this YouTuber in boxing. So maybe a few things have to change. Maybe it's learning a way to exit the sport, but also maybe it's like, can we give at least the champions some big money?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I believe that Tyron, sorry, made enough. It's just, again, what's
Like,
enough for you? You know,
yeah,
it's like
that's true.
sometimes it's whatever you get, it's not enough. Your appetites grow more and more. Like it's also like, like by the person. I think, like you
Yeah,
saw Khabib, how much money he can make. He was like, because like he's, I think, built up person
yeah,
on one way and in one word, and he's like happy with himself, I think,
yeah,
and he don't need like anything more to prove or to get, like he's good. Like that's like, I think, like again, the appetite and the greed of the person, like to get more, not to, and like chasing more, you're losing, like again, we are going to the philosophy and psychology of the life, like you're losing the essence, and that's what I'm talking, actually, at least I'm trying to say about the people, like getting out, like finding something else, and slowly, because like more, it's just gonna bring you the suffering, like all addiction, when you get too much, like is it the money, or is it like a fight, hype, or hype
mm,
hype, or however you want to call it. So it's just like, I think they should bring like the people, like psychologists that talk with the fight, especially like the legends, like you saw also what happened Diego Sanchez, like
yeah,
slowly to try to talk with them and to see, to help them and navigate their exit strategy, like to, how to say it, to save the legends, not to make them like to end up like many boxing legends end up like on the streets without the money, because they didn't know how to manage the money and to manage with life after fighting.
yeah. It's a brutal sport, a brutal business. So I'm super thankful for all these fighters like putting it on the line for our entertainment because it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
especially now when we have, let's say, we cannot say still job, but like it's a hobby. Like I really enjoy
Yeah.
like breaking this and talking about it, and some other way like to really, how to say, improve my knowledge
Yeah.
into the fight, let's say fight business or whatever. I
Yeah.
think we should end up here. I'm drained. We did.
Yeah.
Is this the longest one?
I think so. For good reason. It's a juicy fight card. But yeah, I agree. Let's end it right there. All right.
Sounds good. Have a good
All
night,
right.
brother.
We're both going Diaz.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Let's go for the underdog.
That's right.
See
All
you,
right,
brother.
brother.
Have a
Be
good night.
good. See y'all next time.